And I remember her being like, it is so hard talking to you. You've become such a capitalist. Like I can barely make rent. And here you are discussing whether you should up the rent. But it just dawned on me how I was a renter too. I was a renter in a different country, right? But I was also dealing with the rental side, like being a renter, but also I was a landlord. And it was hard for her to understand that side. But I also just realized like, this is not a conversation I can have with you because I will always be the evil landlord. Welcome back to the Get Rich Slow Club podcast. I'm Ana and I'm here with Tash and we have a fun episode today.
We have some more Am I the Asshole stories.
These ones are so good. I always really get into these and just feel so much for these people.
Yeah, I'm always a little bit mildly horrified sometimes, especially when it's like the person isn't very aware, but these ones are interesting.
Yeah, hopefully you like them too. All right. Am I the asshole for refusing to financially support my brother after he spent our inheritance on a luxury car? I, 32, male, have found myself in a heated conflict with my brother, 28, male, over a significant financial issue. Our parents passed away 2 years ago, leaving us a decent inheritance. It wasn't a fortune, but enough to give us both a comfortable financial cushion. We each received around $50K. Here's where the trouble starts. While I chose to invest my share in a mix of savings and modest down payments on a small home, my brother decided to buy a luxury car, a brand new top-of-the-line sports car to be exact. He was always more into flashy things and living in the moment, but I figured it was his money, his choice. Fast forward to now, the car predictably hasn't held its value and my brother is struggling with the maintenance costs, let alone day-to-day expenses. He approached me asking for financial help. Specifically, he wants me to loan him the money to cover his rent and some other bills. I refuse. I told him that he made his choice to spend his money on a depreciating asset and now he has to face the consequence of that decision. He called me heartless and accused me of abandoning family in need. He insists that family should always help each other out, and I'm just being selfish with my savings. Our extended family is split. Some agree with me, saying he should have been more responsible. Others think I should help him because he's family, and it's not like I'm struggling financially. But my brother has also taken to social media, painting me as the bad guy and trying to guilt trip me into helping him. So Reddit, am I the asshole for refusing to financially support my brother after he blew his inheritance on a luxury car?
No, I think people sometimes have to learn lessons and we have to at times not enable people.
I also agree. I mean, here are the options. Can he sell his luxury car?
Yes.
You know, like, yes, it's depreciating. So maybe it's not worth $50K anymore. Maybe it's worth $40K. Mm-hmm. But $40K or even $35K is still enough to potentially get you in a comfortable place where you can pay your rent.
And like, why can he not pay his rent anyway though? Like, is his rent too expensive? Does he need to move? Why are his bills so expensive? Like, are there other aspects of his life that he can kind of fix up? And asking for a loan to cover your rent without a plan to get out of it, it's just going to keep compounding. It's not. Yeah.
Yeah, it's, I agree. So no, you are not the asshole. Family dynamics are hard. Because this might be very challenging for even extended family if he's talking about it on social media.
Yeah. I like the kind of rule of if you lend money, don't expect to get it back.
Yeah.
To family or friends. So if you want to help him out once off and be very, like, you could draw a line in the sand and give him maybe like, I don't know, a small amount, $1,000, be like, this is to help you get on top of things, but this is it. I'm not helping you ever again. So you can kind of sit in that middle ground, but I understand why you wouldn't want to do that if he is ranting about you on social media.
Yeah.
It's like the entitlement.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and that's the hard thing about finances is that sometimes you do feel entitled because it is your family. And this is kind of where those big fights when people pass away and there's a will, you know, people might feel entitled to something that is actually not theirs. And this is a prime example of that.
Like, why can't he ask other family members? It's like the entitlement of like, oh, well, you're given this money. It's not even your money.
Yeah, yeah.
Fun. Am I the asshole for complaining about money to someone much poorer than me?
Oof.
I, 32 female, used to be poor, but now I'm probably considered rich. Most of my friends from high school and before are still pretty poor. I make like 10 times their income. I was having brunch with my friend Linda, 32F, and she was complaining about the crazy inflation, how currently it's so hard to make ends meet. I said, yeah, I know, right? I remember when milk was so much cheaper. And she said I was too privileged to complain about the cost of milk when she still struggled to pay for milk at all. I said, sorry, I was just trying to agree with her. The rest of brunch was a bit tense. I also just in general have been having a hard time connecting with Linda and many of my other childhood friends because we have different struggles. They seem to forget that just because I have more money, it doesn't mean I don't have struggles or I don't see their issues. I forget to filter what I say and it can rub them the wrong way, even with good intention. I never thought I would become this privileged, rich snob, but maybe I have without realizing it. Am I the asshole? I find some of the language they used like maybe she's coming across a bit insensitive in how she talks about things just at the start, saying like, oh, my friends are pretty poor. I make 10 times what they make.
I was just going to say empathy, you know, like lack of empathy in this whole post.
I think I can almost see it both ways, where it's like sometimes you want to be able to complain.
For sure. But also you need to know who to complain to.
Yes.
You know, and selective people.
Yeah. I've kind of found, like, I definitely don't speak about my friends in this way at all, but I definitely find sometimes when I have like business problems, I have to pick who I can complain to about them, because sometimes it's like, oh, well, that's such a privileged thing to complain about if you're not like in that bubble. But yeah, I do moderate like who I say that to, and I pick the time of conversation. Like if someone's complaining about the cost of living, I'm not like, oh, well, listen to my problem.
Well, I had a really hard conversation with, I've mentioned this to you before. I don't know if I said it on the air, but I had a conversation with a friend of mine when I was renting my place in Vancouver about like what the going rate was, that I could get a bit more, but I don't want to push it too high, you know, because I still want to be a good landlord. But also at the same time, like the cost of everything is going up. And I remember her being like, it is so hard talking to you. You've become such a capitalist. Like I can barely make rent. Me and my sister can barely pay our bills. And here you are discussing whether you should up the rent. And it wasn't for a person. It was like the apartment was vacant, right? Like it was like going back on market to be rented out. So, nonetheless, not justifying anything, but it just dawned on me how like I was a renter too. I was a renter in a different country, right? But I was also dealing with the rental side, like being a renter, but also I was a landlord, and it was hard for her to understand that side. But I also just realized like, this is not a conversation I can have with you, because I will always be the evil landlord.
Yes, especially if you're really struggling and it's easy to put the blame on someone else externally. And yes, there's always external factors, but I can understand why that would be challenging if someone is the epitome of what you think is wrong with the world. And you're like, wow, I just like can't deal with that. I'm going to put my blame on you. But I also think it's like a big skill to be able to like say what you need to, and just say like, oh, I don't really want to talk about that right now. I'm just having a bit of a hard time.
Yeah.
But also I think it's hard if some people aren't really upfront about that, and you're just like chatting about stuff. And if someone hasn't told you they're having a hard time, because sometimes with money, it's very shameful and people can feel a lot of guilt. They might not be open about it, and they might be struggling, but kind of bottling it up, and it's building under the surface.
Yeah. Yeah. Needless to say, I don't talk to this person anymore. And I'm quite sad about it too. But I remember having conversations where she was working at the same company for like 5 years and didn't get a raise. And I was like, I don't know if you know this, but that means that what you're making now is less than what you were making 5 years ago because of inflation. And she was like, oh, I didn't even realize that was a case. And then you just realize there's a financial literacy gap. And so, you know, I wanted to have those conversations with her, but you're in a different place in your stage in life, and the inequality can sometimes become a huge gap in connecting with people, unfortunately, right? And that's where a lot of empathy and understanding has to, like, I learned a huge lesson at that time. I was really sad to lose this friend, but I also realized like it's the systemic issues that we have, policy that's in place, privilege that comes into play that unfortunately can divide people.
And I think if you're that person, because like I've never been struggling in this way, and I'm not going to pretend that I have been. Like I've not struggled with the cost of living, but I also know what it's like to be around other people where you feel slightly out of place or intimidated, and they're talking about their successes and you're like, wow, I'm never going to be that successful. Mm-hmm. But it's also, you can kind of like take a moment to be like, I'm feeling a bit, what's that funny feeling I'm feeling? Is it really their fault? Is it because I'm like uncomfortable with something that's happening with me? Not if you can't afford the cost of milk, like that's a completely different story. But for example, like I know on social media, there's like the whole tall puppy syndrome thing where you might see someone else has gotten help from their parents and they have a house and you don't have a house, and you have this like kind of block against them and you feel uncomfortable about it. But then instead of addressing why you feel challenged by that or why that feels unfair, or just acknowledging that, you can kind of put it on the person instead of being like, yeah, what the world is unfair.
Yeah, and that's the hard thing.
Take advantage.
It's like inequality is really hard, whether you're on whichever side. If you're feeling the inequality or you're benefiting from the inequality, it is difficult. That's why talking even about privilege is difficult. It's difficult to be like, listen, I'm a white woman who lives in another country because of the privileges of where I was born previously, or the financial opportunities that I've had. Those are hard conversations.
Yes, but I think we should all, especially for most people in Australia, I think we should also step back and be like, how are we all privileged? Yes, some people have had help from their parents, but yes, if we've all got Australian passports, we've got a massive privilege there. So I think often we can focus on like the one thing that someone else has that we don't, rather than the 100 things we have in common.
Yeah.
If you're going to have these conversations with your friends, please just use some nicer language maybe, instead of being like, they're poor.
Yeah, for sure. That was rough.
Am I the asshole for being frustrated with my rich boyfriend for trying to give me money advice?
Oh.
My boyfriend, 24 male, and I, 24 female, are moving in together later this year. We have been together for 3.5 years. I've been at uni for the past few years and have significant student loan debt and will not have any steady income until later this year after I graduate and start my job. I have some money in savings, so I'm planning to use that to survive and pay rent the next few months. He was trying to be helpful and help me create a budget, but kept overstepping and making me feel stupid. I don't think this was his intentions, but I feel very frustrated and I told him to back off as I felt he just couldn't understand. For context, he makes a ton of money, has a trust fund, a huge inheritance coming his way in a few years, and he receives from his parents yearly 3 times the amount that I'm trying to survive on for the next 6 months. So financially, we're on different planets. He said something along the lines of, "You're lucky, I love you, and I'm paying more for rent because it's not really equal." He is paying 2 to 1 based on his income, family money, and my debt, which we agreed on. I kind of lost it on him. I told him he has no idea what it's like and his advice means nothing to me because he comes at it with such a sense of privilege. Of course, he took this the wrong way and stormed out and said not to talk to him. Am I the asshole for getting frustrated with him and bringing up our differences in our finances?
This is the flip side of the other conversation.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard, right? No one wants to be talked down to. You're in different financial situations. I feel as though if you have a lot of money that's coming in, especially if it's coming in from your family, you will never understand what it's like to budget if you are in poverty or if you don't have a lot of money.
I also want to challenge the bit around, she said he made me feel stupid or something. Sometimes I feel like with some of these conversations, some people just have those like problems themselves. And it doesn't matter what someone will say, as if like they bring up the money conversation, that person will feel shame or guilt straight away, no matter what the person says. It's like, was it the words he used or was it the fact that he was bringing it up at all?
Yeah, it could be either. It could be either. But I think that usually people that are in tighter financial situations, people always want to help, like, oh, you should spend less money on this or that. But the thing is, it's like, if you have less money, you're just stretched thin. You know, you are going to be under more financial stress. You lose 13 points of your IQ because you are financially in a harder and a stressful situation than anybody else. So it is obviously like she'll have her guard up because she's trying to defend what she knows, right?
Yeah. Again, more open money conversations to be had, like not from a point of like him trying to help too much with the budget, but her just being like, the budget doesn't matter because I've already budgeted. It sounds like she's planned, or like I've got savings for the next 3 months. Like that sounds like the budget to get her through. And then like things will change when she gets a job and she finishes uni and stuff like that. But yeah.
One of the things I thought was good is to hear that they had more of an equitable percentage breakdown of their rent.
Yes. But then his words around, "You're lucky, I love you."
Oh yeah, I know. I was like,
Yeah.
dump him, red flag. Yeah.
I think because they're both still young. Like 24 is still young. And if her boyfriend hasn't really, like if you're in a bubble where other people have money and you're all like from a private school, rich kind of bubble, and everyone around you has a trust fund and everyone else around you is getting inheritances and it's just like normalized, maybe he doesn't really realize how he's being as well. Like of course it's on him to figure it out, but maybe it's like that open conversation of like, the budget doesn't help. I can make a budget.
Yeah, well, I mean, sometimes when you have more money, you actually don't need to budget because you have so much buffer. Whereas if you don't have a lot of money, you have to make each dollar count. So you're coming from different places, right?
Yeah. And then also if you want to be in this relationship and someone's always going to have more money longer term, when does it become like our money? And is there a point where you can kind of accept that there will be more money on one side and that's just how this relationship dynamic is going to be? Or
do they dangle a "you're lucky, I love you"?
Yeah.
I would be like, nah.
Yeah. It's not "you're lucky," it's "we're together" or "we're not together."
Yeah. So it might be good to get like a mediator or someone in between, or just talk to a different friend who's maybe potentially good at budgeting, or just, it's hard. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe an amber flag, an orange flag.
Yeah.
Not the arsehole though. You can be frustrated.
Yeah.
Okay. If you have a story for us, an Am I the Arsehole story, or any questions or whatever, please send us a voice note, or you can type out your Am I the Arsehole story so we can read them out and discuss them. I feel like when we were looking for these stories, there were lots of themes, like lots of family, lots of inheritance. So if you have any stories at all, it doesn't have to be those, let us know.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thanks so much for joining us. If you found this episode helpful, please rate us 5 stars, write a review, or share with a friend. If you're new to investing, make sure to listen to our first 10 episodes. Follow us at Get Rich Slow Club, or Tash at Tash Invest, or me at Ana Cristina.
The Get Rich Slow Club podcast is a collaboration between Tash Edgman from Tash Invest and Ana Cristina from Perla. Knowledge is power, especially when it comes to investing. So make sure you check out our financial services guides and read the product disclosure statement and target market determination for any investments you're considering. See our show notes for more info. Any advice is general and does not consider your financial situation, needs, or objectives, so consider whether it's appropriate for you. This show was brought to you by Natasha Etchman, who is an authorised representative 1299881 of Guideway Financial Services, AFSL 420367, and Perla, who is an authorised representative 1281540 of Sanlam Private Wealth, AFSL 337927. The Get Rich Slow Club acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land we record on. From coast to coast, across land, waters, and communities, we pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging.